Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Monday, the 24th day of November, 2025. I hope you enjoyed your weekend and that you were safe and healthy this weekend as well as today, and that your family also was safe and healthy. Rest in peace, H. Rap Brown. Blessings upon those that work in health and those that are the first responders that every day are doing their best to save and comfort lives. Those also that pick up garbage, keep our places clean, and those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessing on the men and women out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover teenagers and children victims of child molestation and pedophilia. Those that are helping the people that are victims of prostitution, child prostitution, pornography, and child pornography, human trafficking, and sex slavery. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that cause these evil industries to exist. Finally, double blessings on homeless. More than 700,000 men, women, children, families, senior citizens, military veterans, homeless in the United States of America. Millions around the world in even worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. There's scheduled to be a basketball game tonight. The New York Knicks will be playing in Brooklyn, New York against the Brooklyn Nets and at Barclays. And right now, it's only OG Anunoby and Landry Shamet, of course, on the injury report. So we expect Deuce McBride to be ready to play today, and he'll probably start today. So you're going to have Deuce, Mitch Robb, and Mikal Bridges as the defensive players today. Usually they have three. It's either Mikal, OG, and Mitch Robb, or Mikal, OG, and Shamet, depending on if Mitch Robb is playing or not. So you'll have three defensive players in the starting lineup, which is normal. Then you usually have defenders coming off the bench. I'm stressing defense because the Knicks have sucked on defense in the losses they have had. It's not whether they're on the road or at home. It's the lack of defense. Now, oftentimes the lack of defense was due to injuries to defensive-oriented players that they need. Mitchell Robinson, again, Deuce McBride, now Landry Shamet, OG Anunoby. You cannot win. The Knicks will not win anything unless they have a full contingent of defenders. Again, offense scores points. Defense wins championships. And that's what we're looking for this year. So right now, all of the usual haters that pile on when the Knicks are at a low ebb are piling on. But I believe the Knicks are going to come back from all this, and this is going to make them stronger if they can stay healthy, which is, again, part of making them stronger. So tonight we'll have Deuce. I would like to see Deuce be aggressive. We know he's going to bring it defensively. That's 100% given. He's going to bring it defensively. We want him to be aggressive offensively. Now, on the bench, you're going to have on the bench, of course, Josh Hart. You're going to have Yabo Sele. You're going to have on the bench our boy, West 4th Street, Rucker League, Jordan Clarkson. Now, no Shamet means I'm 95% to 98% certain we're going to see Diawara, Muhammad Diawara, as we should. As he's the defender on the bench, that's a win. Okay, he can guard 1 through 5, 7-foot wingspan, ready on the NBA level defensively. Offensively, it's still a work in progress, but we're going to have to deal with that because we are short on our defensive rotational players, with OG being out and now Shamet being out. So Muhammad Diawara should be called upon to play some high-level defense. He should be getting rotational minutes. What I'd be interested to see tonight against the Nets, and again, there are those knuckleheads that think because it's the Nets, we should just walk through this. Still don't understand the phrase, this is the league. You don't walk through anybody, okay? You earn every win in the league, okay? So not sleeping on the Brooklyn Nets tonight. And again, they just beat Boston a couple of nights ago. So don't sleep on them. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see the plus minus when Diawara is on the court tonight. Again, I'm expecting him to get rotation minutes, which means I'm looking for him to get at least 10, but he should get really more than 15 minutes tonight on the floor. And I want to see, I'm not looking to see how many points he scores. I want to see how the team does in terms of plus minus while he's on the court. If his defensive presence can cause the Knicks to disrupt Brooklyn and cause them to go on runs and have several three-stop sequences, then we need to keep playing him. Now, and on November 16th, if I looked at the BSPN injury report for the Knicks, it was November 16th that they said OG would be reevaluated in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the 30th of November. Okay, why is that important? Well, they're going to evaluate him if he's ready to go. Then some point that coincides with, we're talking about November 30th. They'd be in Toronto. They'd be in the Garden playing Toronto, but I don't think he'll be back for that. I expect him to be back anywhere from December 3rd to December 7th, which is the 3-game homestand against Charlotte, Utah, and Orlando. We get Orlando again on December 7th. If we could get OG back for them 3 games, and I think we can, if his hamstring is coming along, hopefully it is. One thing we know for sure, the Knicks have the best medical staff in professional basketball. Been like that a long time. One thing about them, whoever's owning the team, whoever it is, they always make sure they have the top medical staff, and New York is one of the top medical places on planet Earth. They got big time talent, so Knicks get the best in terms of that. So what I'm saying is they should be treating, I'm sure they are, treating OG on the highest level. OG, and for his part, got to get with his trainers, get with his people, and I'm sure he is, to make sure he'll be ready. So that 3-game stretch is going to be important, because if you get OG back and you got Deuce, now you're going to have McCall, OG, and either Mitch Rob and or Deuce starting, depending on if Mitch Rob is playing. I don't think any of those games are back-to-backs. There's a back-to-back at Boston and then at home against Charlotte. Mitch Rob is not going to play in both those games. We know this. So I don't know if he's going to sit against Boston or is he going to sit against Charlotte. I don't know. But in one of those games, we should have OG with Deuce starting at that point. Now, I'm thinking the worst with respect to Shamet. There's no question to me he dislocated his shoulder, his right shoulder, the shoulder he had surgery on last year. It's only a question of, is he going to miss the rest of the season? Is he going to be able to come back in a couple months? We have to find out. That's what I'm waiting to get a report on, hopefully in the next day or so from the Knicks on that. I'm tired of this narrative. He wasn't supposed to make the rotation. He barely made the team. That is bullcrap. That's a narrative. This is what I mean when I say people put forth narratives that are false and then get people to believe the false narratives. I don't like that because it's lying. Okay? First off, under Thibodeau, Shamet first broke his shoulder, right? There's only certain players that Thibodeau would be patient enough to wait to come back from injury. It's players that he plans on playing, and he always keep a short rotation. So when Juju got hurt, Thibodeau said, they asked you, very concerned, because he wants to, Juju was one of his boys. If you get hurt, okay, like Cam Reddish, Thibodeau gonna let you go. You need to be available to play for Thibodeau. You need to be available. So for him to keep Shamet, and then we saw, even we're talking about a year ago, Shamet was bringing it defensively. We already knew he could shoot, but he was bringing it, and Tibbs kept mentioning that. So I said, okay, Shamet would be in the rotation if he didn't break his shoulder. He came back, and then, of course, Tibbs was patient with him and let him come back, rehab, and come back, and at the end of the season, Shamet played. So to say that he barely made the team or to say he wasn't expected to be in the rotation is pure BS. The dude was going to be in the rotation. The only question is, aside from all the false narratives that people put out there, the lies they put out there, the only question was it going to be Shamet plus Garrison or Shamet plus Brogdon? That's it. And if it was plus one of those other vets, that means Daddy A was being traded. That's the only question there was. There was never any question that if Shamet stayed healthy, he was going to be in the rotation. Okay? There was never any question. A guy that plays high-level defense and can shoot the ball on an elite NBA level, what? They're going to cut him? No, they weren't going to do that. So Shamet was always going to be in the rotation. And that being the case, the reason I bring that up, aside from calling out the stupidness and lies of false narratives that's in the media, was he was going to be an important piece in the championship run. Okay? He was going to be. It wasn't like he was surprised. We should be surprised at this. I'm not. I knew he was going to play and he was going to be in the rotation. But now, that's a big question mark. So, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? I don't know. See, there's options though. First off, Deuce McBride has got to be as reliable and dependable as he has been over his 5-year career. We need him to stay healthy, okay? Number one. Number two, he also needs to be aggressive as he has been over the last 2 games before he got sick. He was being more aggressive, dropping 25 in a loss, but then continuing to be aggressive in the next game. So he got to continue to do that, continue to be aggressive. We already know he's aggressive on the defensive end. That's a given. We can be spoiled with that because that's a given from Deuce McBride. Also now, what else now? Do we need another guy that could take Shamet's spot while he's rehabbing? And like, okay, Tyler Kolek, I'm not saying anything negative about Tyler Kolek. I like Tyler Kolek. He has won me over. His heart, his desire, his effort. Really, I like Tyler Kolek. But I'd be lying to you if I thought I would depend on Tyler Kolek to take Landry Shamet's spot. I'd be lying to you because I don't feel comfortable with that. I do feel comfortable, though, if they were going to sign a DeLon Wright. We talked about this yesterday. DeLon Wright was signed with Indiana. He suffered a really bad head injury in preseason in October. Subsequently, Indiana cut him. But I was reading the recent reports of his progress, and he's almost ready to return to play. Having been on the Knicks before, having played a starting role in the absence of Jalen Brunson last April and played it very well in the course of April, I would not mind if they wouldn't got DeLon Wright back again. Okay. Now I know how Thibodeau felt about DeLon Wright. Defensive player, long wingspan, 6'5", could hit spot-up jump shots. Not as good as Shamet, obviously, but defensively, we're not missing anything with DeLon Wright. Can handle the rock, run the offense, all of that. So I don't know how Mike Brown feels about DeLon Wright. Because one thing we have seen, Brown looks at players differently than Thibodeau. And again, that's Brown, that's him, right? And I still can't put my finger on what a Mike Brown player looks like. I know what he likes on this roster, but I don't know what a Mike Brown player looks like. So I don't know how he feels about DeLon Wright, but I would not mind if they brought him back. I would feel more secure in the absence of Shamet, put it that way, if we had DeLon Wright behind Deuce. Okay, so you know you got Brunson, you got Deuce. If we had a DeLon Wright behind him, because DeLon Wright could run the point as well as the 2. And he definitely could guard 1 through 3. There's no doubt about it. What you want and what the Knicks have, one of their strengths in terms of their depth, when they have everybody healthy, is the ability of players to guard more than 2 or 3 positions. So Deuce can guard 1 through 4. Mitch Robb could guard 1 through 5 when he's right. He wasn't right Saturday night. Hart can guard 1 through 4, okay? And he's done that, and he does it consistently. He just, again, he got fried by Franz Wagner. And listen, this is the league. These guys are really good, okay? So you're going to get a guy to fry somebody. And apparently, Wagner is Hart's kryptonite because he busted up his ass, Saturday night. But, by the way, I'm expecting a comeback game defensively from Josh Hart. He may not get a triple-double or whatever, but defensively, he better be present today because he can't. I give him Franz Wagner because Franz Wagner is good. I underestimated that boy coming out of Michigan. I really did. But I got to give him his props. He's for real, okay? So he gave Josh the business. Josh got come back. But Josh, back to our point, though, Josh could guard 1 through 4 regularly. So you got him. You got Deuce. You got Mitch Robb. We know OG could guard 1 through 5. We know McCall could guard 1 through 4 when he's ready to do that, you see? So we know we got at least 5 players that could guard multiple positions, okay? And now I'm seeing Jordan Clarkson now. I wouldn't say Jordan Clarkson could guard 1 through 3, but he could definitely guard a point guard and he could guard it off guard. So he got 2 there. And the reason this is very, 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 very important is because teams like to switch onto the weakest guy. In our case, it's obviously Jalen Brunson. They like to get Jalen Brunson caught in mismatches, and then they get Jalen Brunson done up. Okay, that's happened a lot. In most all of our losses, that's been part of the problem. Okay, so you try to protect Brunson, and you're hoping Cat can hold his own. That's what your situation is. You have both of those cats on the floor for a number of reasons. Number one, Jalen Brunson is an assassin. Clutch player of the year, deservedly so. Cat, there's nobody in the NBA that can guard him. Okay, cool. So you got to put them out there. But when you got 2 dudes that are weak on defense, it becomes a little bit tougher. Okay. So you got to have 3 really good defenders out there with him, which Shamet represented before he got hurt. Now Deuce does. So now, and you got to have defense coming off your bench. Everybody's worried about the point production coming off the bench. Okay, they got that covered. But you got to have some defense coming off your bench. And that's what people didn't look at right last year when they were talking about the lack of non-Brunson minutes and all this BS. Look, what you want to really look at is the plus minus of the bench. If they only scored 15 points, but they're plus 15, that means while they were on the floor, they outscored the opponent by 15. That's because the bench was locking people up. You really need that now, okay? Especially in the absence of OG, in the absence of Shamet. You need some defense. So you got, and Yabusele, I was never a big fan of him guarding 5s. I'm still not. I am a big fan of him guarding 4s and 3s. He's not a guy, I won't consider him a guy that can guard 1 through 4. He can guard 3s and he can guard 4s. He has a problem with 5s. But we got to have him too. Then, of course, I would not mind seeing Hooporty get more minutes because Hooporty, he moves his feet extremely well on the defensive end. To me, that's his calling card in the NBA, his defensive prowess. So, but again, Brown don't agree with me because we only seeing Hooporty in situational minutes. That's it. See, so, but at least Brown does agree with me with respect to Diawara. He seems to be favoring Diawara, which I thought was going to happen anyway, because Diawara, like I said, at age 19, he comes in NBA ready on the defensive end. He's not NBA ready on the offensive end, but you don't expect a player to be offensively gifted like that coming at 19 and late in the second round. But to understand that he can play some defense against anybody, that's real important. So, Diawara, Yabusele, Hart, you got your defenders right there. Then, of course, you're going to have Jordan Clarkson. You're going to have that too. So you got those guys. I would like to use Hooporty, but I ain't going to trip if Brown doesn't because that's his choice. But that is what it is. You still got Trey Jamison, who he hasn't really used yet. He definitely is not favoring Daddy. No, when you see him go to Daddy, that's desperation. Okay, and that's why I don't want to see him go to Daddy, because I'm not into desperation. We're trying to win with our crew. That's going to take us all the way to the promised land. So, Yabusele, Hart, Clarkson, and then that's who you got. And then I'm looking for Diawara to move up into that rotation today. So, the key thing here against the Nets: how does the bench respond when they're on the floor in terms of plus minus? We know, look, Jordan Clarkson's going to score. He's one of them cats, he's going to jump out the bed and score. He's going to score. But who else? They're going to play some defense. His Diawara is going to be effective defensively. And again, that's a function of what's the plus minus for him when he's on the floor today. That's what I'll be looking at. And then how many 3-stop sequences do they get? If they can get the 3-stop sequences, if they can play the level of defense that we expect from guys when they got this type of rotation, I think we'll be all right, until we can get OG back next week, hopefully end of next week. Like I said, December, I'm expecting him. I'm really looking for him. They're going to evaluate him on the 30th, which is next Sunday. Okay. The Knicks will be playing Toronto at the Garden. They're going to evaluate him then. He could theoretically, if they said 2 weeks, he could theoretically play, But I'm thinking not yet. I'm thinking maybe at Boston on December 2nd or back at home against Charlotte on December 3rd. That's a back-to-back. So I'm expecting him to be back at least the 3rd of December. If we get him back, now we know Mitch Rob is not going to play both of those games. It's a back-to-back. So it'll be nice to have OG, then at that point. So we'll see. I'm hoping that's the case. So right now, though, we got Brooklyn tonight. We're at Charlotte Wednesday. Then we got the Bucks in Toronto. Of course, the Bucks, Giannis has been hurt. This is the thing. The Bucks are Giannis. If Giannis is hurt, they done. If Giannis plays, they could win. Because everybody else on the Bucks is a extra piece around Giannis, as it should be, right? When they won the chip, that's what it was. But they had Drew Holiday when they won the chip, who's a two-way star, you know what I'm saying? And then they had the twin Lopez boy that can shoot and play defense also. He was up for Defensive Player of the Year a couple of times. So that's what they had. But right now, they got Giannis and a bunch of guys that's supposed to be around Giannis. Now, with Giannis, you need to have shooters around him. So right now, Ryan Rollins, the boy is balling. I mean, he's been balling since he played against us. He's been balling. So he's the starting point guard, and he's going to be the starting point guard. Kuzma has been coming off the bench and been effective coming off the bench. Then you got Giannis, you got Miles Turner, and then, of course, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent Jr., Gary Harris, Cole Anthony, Jericho Sims. They got a solid team, but Giannis is the dude. So when we play them, the question is Giannis going to play? So right now, Giannis has I think it's a groin or a hammy. Let me take a look. A low-grade left groin strain will miss 1 to 2 weeks. That was as of November 18th. So the likelihood of him playing against the Knicks is small. He probably won't play if they're talking about 1 to 2 weeks. So 1 to 2 weeks from November 18th, November 25th, December 2nd. So the Knicks are playing them this week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm looking at this again. They play New York on Friday, the 28th. So he probably won't play. I'd be surprised if he does. He's a gamer like Brunson. He's a tough dude. So he wants to play. But whether he's ready or not is unlikely. So that means we're going to be facing Milwaukee without Giannis, which gives us a little bit of a up, not guaranteed now. Rollins is a Knick killer. He's a young boy that's now certifying himself as a legit Knick killer. So we can't sleep on them. And of course, Bobby Portis, since he came from the Knicks, he's been trying to kill the Knicks every time he gets a chance. So there's that. So we got enough of what I'm saying. We got enough with Deuce and with Diawara to hold the fort until we can get OG back. I'm not counting on Shamet being back. Not until at the earliest post All-Star break. That's the earliest. That's a very positive prognosis. If we get him back before that, I'll be real happy. But I'm trying to be worst case scenario here. So we're not going to get Shamet back. Not anytime soon. So we're going to need OG back, but in the meantime, we got enough to hold the fort with Diawara and Deuce. So we got Brooklyn, Charlotte, Milwaukee. Toronto's playing much better this year. Matter of fact, Toronto I think they're ahead of the Knicks in the standings right now. Because Brandon Ingram ain't missed no games yet, which I say that's surprising. Right now, Toronto's second in the East, and they got a 2-game lead on the Knicks. So right now they legit. I don't know if the staying power is there because, like I said, I don't expect Brandon Ingram to play 82 games. He is not Mikal Bridges, but we'll see. But that's not going to be an easy game Sunday. So I don't expect. I mean, you would think, okay, they're playing Toronto's OGs to play there. He might play, right? But I don't know. We'll see. I'm still not expecting him back until the 3-game homestand. So anyway, between Deuce and Diawara, with the regular crew, I think we got enough to hold the fort until we can get OG back in the lineup. And then we go from there. Again, whether they're going to sign a DeLon Wright, that would probably not happen until DeLon Wright fully healthy. He says he's making progress, but he's not quite ready yet. Somebody going to sign him. I can guarantee that. Somebody going to sign him. So I'm hoping it's the Knicks. We'll see. But right now, we got to get by Brooklyn tonight. We need Deuce in there. We need Diawara in there with the regular crew of about 7 or 8 that we normally have. We need some defense today, Mr. Josh Hart. We need some effort today on defensive end, Mr. Cat. We need that ball to move, Mr. Brunson. Let's see how we do. You all enjoy the game today. Be safe out there. Sure.